Okay, we're live. All right. Hello, Tom Matt, one of my favorite people, one of my metaphysical faves. So obviously we've spoken before, but we're going to act like you guys have no idea what Upsight Vision is or who Tom is. So Tom, to start this thing off, please let us know who you are and where Upsight Vision started for you and what it is.
Okay, so I'm Tom Matt. I am a former businessman in the Atlanta area. Actually now it's 13 years ago, I went through a mental health crisis. When I came out of that mental health crisis, literally when I came out the end of it, or at the end of the year, in a weird way, this helped me come out of it.
Yeah.
I realized I had this ability to see holographic images that were everywhere around me, and I could interact with them. Now, let me be clear. When I say see them, they don't interfere with me, right? I have to turn my attention and focus, and then I see them. And I also realized at that time when I could see them, I can interact with them. And I like to describe what they look like. Let's start there so everyone has a clear picture what it is. I'll give you two examples. If you've seen the show on Netflix a couple of years ago called The Queen's Gambit. There's a scene where the protagonist is laying in bed. She's sitting there thinking about the move she can use against her competitor, and they're above her on the ceiling, and she even moves them. They're like that. They're like smoky. They're clear, translucent with a one-color tint typically. Or if you haven't seen that, most people have seen Iron Man, and there's a scene where Tony Stark is in his office. It's very immersive, and he can swipe left and swipe right. Yeah, I can't do that. I cannot swipe left and right, but it is that immersive and it is that detailed.
Yes.
And another thing I think it's important for people to understand, which I always want to get out front, this is not a vivid mind's eye, right? I had a vivid mind's eye because I ran an advertising agency. If I could sit there and think about something in my mind's eye, I could do that while I was driving a car, right? Yeah. If I could take that same image, let's say I'm thinking about an apple in my mind's eye. If I'm seeing this apple in front of me with Upsight, I can't drive the car because I would get in a wreck. So I have to be a passenger. And, my eyes dilate, they get tired. There's a thing called smooth pursuit where you can follow it. That's how we know it's external. And of course, as you and I have discussed a couple of times, Dana, I was up at the Institute of Noetic Sciences and they hooked me up to an EEG machine and they did some testing there. So that is
hallucinate. Just so everyone knows, these are not hallucinations. This is a new phenomenon where people like Tom, and he's named it, are experiencing this upgrade of visual sense. People are starting to see into what Tom may call the organic biosphere or
organic metaverse.
Organic metaverse, or I forget the other word, but he has seen into this and what I think is plasma. But either way, he has seen into this, and there's a lot more to hear. But some of you who may have this can relate to him.
Yeah, for sure. And every time I talk about this, without fail, I will get an email or somebody will reach out to me and say, I have this to some degree. And that's why I wrote, I have a free PDF, the 8 stages of Upsight Vision. It's the 8 stages I went through. And I realized people, they have something like this. Some of them have the extreme version. Some of them have something similar, or so you can kind of see where you are based on what I went through. Some people see them, but they can't interact with them, right? Some people actually see them. So yeah, and they're not, when we think about the word hallucination, you think about it as something that's there and you think it's real. I know, I know these things aren't real. I know there's something that's being constructed in front of me. I don't know what it is. I know we can interact with it, but I know it's not like a real chess piece, right? So I think that's really important.
But we're beginning to find out, which we'll get into soon, which is why you guys should stick around. We're going to find out what you actually think these might be and the meaning behind them and the significance behind the things you're seeing, which I think you're starting to know. And,
Well, yeah. Well, no, that's interesting because I wrote I wrote this on 2021 and it's on Medium. It's called the dark matter. Is AI something? I can't even remember the name of it, about the AI and dark matter, because I think like you think it's plasma. Now I'm kind of leaning towards that, Dana, right? Because I mean, all the things and you've taught me about plasma over the last year since we met at the consciousness conference, and maybe it is like plasma / or also related to dark matter and gravitational waves. Maybe it's all related.
I think what I call 4D plasma is dark matter.
Yeah. So listen, and until we have these tools, now we have humans that can see it. Until skeptics or academics or whatever, obviously we need to measure. Until we create these tools that can measure it, we're going to have people talking about it and talking about our experiences and whether it's subjective, whether it's objective. I have this. A lot of people. Let's talk about DMT. Because DMT, when people take psilocybin or do drugs, right? A lot of times when people are using ingesting some kind of anything, right? Any mushrooms or whatever to change their mind space, I think those people are tuning in, right? And tuning in and seeing the same things that I can happen to see all the time now. So I think we could literally, so I'm talking about, how we can prove this or how we can see subjective or subjective. So let's walk through this. Let's say I am the control. Yeah. Let's say we get 6 guys or men and women on DMT, right? Yeah. They're all tripping, right? Let's say the machine elves show up, right? Because the machine elves is a common theme. Yeah. Now we all see the machine elves and I see it without it. Now we have an objective outwardly thing that we're all seeing. Now the next question is, okay, all because we're seeing the same things, would we be getting the same messages? Because people talk about communicating with them, right? Would they be all giving us the same messages? So that's one thing we could test. Now let's say the machine elves don't show up, but I could sit there and project, because I can project these images outside of me, an image of an apple. And let's see, the 5 guys are like, wow, I see an apple in front of me. Now we're talking about a communication element. It is both subjective because I'm, pushing it out or whatever, like a voice, right? It's just like that. And they're seeing it with their eyes. So there's so many things that we can do, because the one beautiful thing about this is I can do this on demand all day long. I don't have to wait to get into the right mind straight. All I have to do is shift my attention and focus, and it happens.
Let me ask you this before we move on. Someone said, Sunny Day said, they wanted to explain how you interact with it. Can you move it? Can you talk to it? Explain a little bit more what interaction means to you.
Okay, so let's say I shifted my attention. I'm going to give you a couple of examples because they're different. So let's say I've shifted my attention and I looked over there and there was some guy cooking a hamburger, right? So now I'm seeing that, and I would think, I don't have to verbalize anything. I would think, and this is how I realized I could interact with it and have a communication element. I'm like, first I'd say, is that a hamburger? And then I'm like, wow, is that a hamburger or is it a chicken? I would think that, because it wouldn't maybe be clear. All of a sudden that hamburger turns into a chicken. Right? I mean, a roasted chicken, obviously. And then I'm like, wait a minute, can I make that chicken alive and fly off? And then I'd think that, and it would do that. I'm like, okay, now it's a conversation. Now I'm influencing what this is. Yeah. Right? As far as a conversation, I would ask questions, think of questions. I would ask a question and I would get an answer. Now, the thing about this, I learned right away, the answer, even though it would be an answer, might not be the right answer. It might not be a true answer, but it would be a true response, and it would be detailed. So in other words, well, maybe this is unrelated, maybe it's related. I've watched the Kentucky Derby race, and I bet on the horses that it showed me winning. Forget that. This will literally not show me that for whatever reasons. It doesn't care about that. So
it seems to me more communicative. It seems like you have this gift, which is to me, it seems, which is the same with psychics, who I think also can't win those numbers. It seems like it's to help humanity on a socio-economical level, on a physiological level, and on a level to do with your psyche and understanding the self. And I will get more into that, but it seems
I think so too. And you know what? And again, we will talk about this, the communication element, right? Yes. Even though I've been doing this by myself for the last 12 years, and I finally got other people that say they can do it, we still have not started to communicate with anybody, because I've tried to mind read, right? I've done it so many times. I'm like, think of something. I cannot read a mind. It doesn't work like that. Now, this is what we'll talk about, Dana, because this is what I'm starting to do. Yeah. Yes. What I can do, and this is crazy, I've been able to do it in the last couple of months. I've been really focusing on practicing it. So even though I can't read what you're thinking, what I can do is see Upsight what's radiating from you. If you give
Yeah.
me permission, I can see what is radiating through you, and it's different than mine. I've tested this enough. So
Yeah.
let's say like my voice is different from yours. The way this radiates from me is different than the radiates from you. So I know I'm watching what's radiating from you as opposed to me. It took me a while to figure this out. Plus, I have to get permission. I have to get permission from you. And if I was in the room with you, I would stare at you because okay, check this out. Picture this visual. I would look into your eyes, right?
Do you give me permission, or do you
want
to?
No, both. I would ask it. I would say, listen, are you okay with me looking at your unconscious projections? I would want permission. Yeah, right. So if I was to do that, if you were in a room, right? Yeah, right. It's almost like wait, hold on a minute. Let me do this first.
Yeah.
If you're right next to me, this is what I've done. I look into people's eyes. It's almost like when you ever seen a magnet pulling up steel filings off of a thing, it pulls them into the air, right? So that's coming out of the person. And then have you ever noticed when you put a pin into a balloon and it keeps pushing out? So once it comes out, so then I have the person face the wall, right? I turn away to make sure that it's not mine influencing. I turn back. Now, whatever's coming out, I've helped pull it out. I've helped draw it out. Yeah. So I've tested this enough, and I'm going to start doing it in person. I have an event I'm doing it at. Now, online is different. Online, I don't know how it works like that. I can still do it. I think it still works, but it's a field, right? It's like biolocation or what do you call that? It's that dual location thing. It's that
bilocation.
Yeah.
Bilocation.
So, and here's the thing too, let's be clear about this. It's not, let's say, maybe we'll do this now in a little bit, right? With you, right? It's not going to be what you're thinking, right?
No, it's unconscious, right?
Right. We don't know, and you'd be like, well, I haven't thought about that. And then a couple of things can happen. In 2 days, I could describe saying, this is really not the perfect room to do it, but I'll try to do it because when I do this online, I do it in a darker room so I can see it, right? And I can see the differences. So it's going to be a little bit funnel, but to have fun, we will do it.
Yes, great. Woo.
So let's say I see something now, whatever I see, let's say I see a picture of a Volkswagen driving down the road, right? A bright yellow Volkswagen or a tinted. I don't see bright colors. It may be nothing to you, right? It may be completely meaningless, or you might turn on a TV show tomorrow and the first thing they show is a bright yellow Volkswagen, or it's a billboard, or tomorrow you're going to have a dream of a Volkswagen, or you say, oh my God, I just thought about Volkswagen yesterday, right? This, even though I'm seeing it, it's almost like seeing a dream. I can't control it, but I know whatever the person is thinking about is influencing them in an unconscious way, right?
To me, that makes, once again, perfect sense, because I've seen, so many psychics over the years, and none of them are completely accurate in the same way. It's more that what it is to me, it's the same thing as I said. It's like a non-controlled, whoever the designers are, a non-controlled way of helping a person where you're clearly picking something out that does have meaning, even if it's unconscious, and it's going to present itself in whatever way it does in their life. And however that's meant to help them, it's meant to help them. All you know is that what you're doing is somehow helping them and exposing parts of their psyche they might not have looked at, or maybe it's something cool, whatever it is. It seems to me, it's the same thing as you say, as dark matter, 4D plasma, what I call the collective unconscious. You're going in there, you're letting it leak out, and you're helping the people see these things that they otherwise, almost better than therapy and quicker than therapy, like they never would have seen unless you brought it out.
Well, it's like a valve. It's like releasing a valve. Something is on their mind, and they may not know it. Now, there's a couple of things too. Let's talk about Jung and the collective unconscious. Some of these things are symbolic, right? And I actually see metaphors. I talked about this one in the very beginning. I've seen this thing, and I was like, so this is about the communication. I'm like, how can I figure this out? What do I need to do to make this happen? And it showed an oil pan underneath a car, one of those things that the oil drips into, they're working on, and it had a guy's elbow, right? And then I was like, wait a minute. It's this intelligence is showing me elbow grease. Yeah. I'm like, so I was like, okay. Then I realized that whatever this is has an intelligence. It's playful, right? It doesn't give quick answers. It makes you want to think about it. It's right. It's symbolic. It's symbolic. So you may see, let's say I see something with you, it may be a leopard, but it may be what that leopard represents. I don't know. You just don't know. And then you can work on that with yourself. You could Google what this is. And I've learned too, this is really, really the coolest part too. Because remember, I'm an observer most in this.
Mm-hmm.
You can work on it with a friend. You can work on it with yourself. If you have a coach, if you have a therapist, whatever, right? Because remember, first thing is seeing it, but you will know. Like I said, don't ever, I've said this, don't ever make a life choice based on what this is.
Sure.
Now,
same with
right. But if you're driving in the car and there's a synchronistic event, like you think about what we had a conversation of, a symbolism, and the next thing you know, a car drives by, a truck that says make a change now, and you feel it inside you, and it's positive. To me, that is the universe saying, okay, pay attention. Again, it doesn't mean you should do it. It just means it's away from this a little bit. You're unconscious. You're a little bit in another place, and then you can decide. And if they keep happening, I mean, like all of us, we should trust our guts, our instincts way more than we do, you know?
And so, you're saying that, though. The reason this is so groundbreaking and exciting to me, and it also validates my research, and this is in my book, and it's, I mean, you're completely one of the people that is doing this, is I have seen that plasma communicates in archetypes and symbols and metaphor. And the reason I'm so good at connecting with it, which we've spoken about, not with Upsight Vision, but where I just know and it communicates with me through metaphors. It's exciting because you doing this, it's like, it's just so affirming that this is where humanity is going, and your special way of doing it is going to help so many people, because we're going into a time in life where it's not about direct answers. It's about sitting with things, letting them percolate, deciding what meaning is. Like, the more you know what your meaning is for those mythologies, the more you'll be able to read people. And then the more you give those to people, the more they'll identify their meanings with those things. Either way, the symbol is you seeing the symbol is what matters, because all you have to do is communicate the symbol to them, which is what you're doing. And then they'll figure the meaning out. And that's what's so amazing. Because like, most people can't do that. I mean, once again, you just said it. Like, yes, perfect world, we'd all be in touch with our intuitions, and maybe we'll get there. But for now, you're that guy that is helping expose that in people, which will connect them with themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You know what, Dana, that feels right too. And remember, it's so funny too to think about my own personal journey, right? When this happened, I was so enamored, and it was so important to me to have traditional academics study this, right? Because it was going to be taken seriously, or everyone else dismisses it. Now, the IONS Institute, they absolutely did it. So that's great. That's not Harvard. It's not Princeton. But so what? It's the only people they really are way ahead of the curve on this stuff. Dean Radin and that team, way ahead of the curve. Totally. So there's a paper coming out to prove that there's brain changes. All the EEG states, whether when I'm using my mind's eye and thinking about something, and when I'm using Upsight, across all the alpha. Absolutely.
That's all you need.
So since then, right, that was the paper. And by the way, it's been under peer review for so long, but any day it will be coming out. I mean that.
I believe it. And I will also say, because what you're doing is groundbreaking and metaphysical and different, things like that don't get put out right away. It's almost like they're waiting for the public conscious to catch up. Like, there's no doubt it's real. And I think anyone your videos have gotten millions of views on my page. People resonate with it. And I've learned what I've learned with the plasma stuff, because I can't prove any of that. People resonating and it meaning things to people is enough. You helping people is the proof.
And I think people have an inner knowing that we know that things are weird and changing. I mean, there's no doubt, like, we know the government, whatever you want to call it, everyone's lying to us. For anyone in position of authority, they're not, whether you want to call it lying, what we're getting told is not complete true. And I think instinctively we know that. We may not know the right answer. We may not know the truth, but we know you're full of shit. How about that? We may not know the truth. Right. So, and it's funny too, because every time again, everyone wants me to teach this. And I always say, I'm not ready to teach it. Because I still have stuff to go through and I still don't understand the whole thing. However, And I feel like if I'm going to teach it, I want everyone to be like a great student, and I want to make sure they can do it, because I feel like I can't sing, at all. And I've taken singing classes, right? But I feel like this is like singing. Everyone can sing a little bit, but everyone can't be Adele.
Yeah.
So some people are going to be able to do it better than others. Some people will be like, I can't do it at all. But I'm still not ready to do it. I'm gathering data in this stage where I'm doing it now. And I think by the fall, I'll start offering classes and stuff like that. Maybe partnership with Ions, but not till the fall, but it's coming.
Okay, I'm glad, because I was nervous you weren't going to say it was ever coming, because a lot of people, so there's this old paradigm, which is about you have to be a master to teach things. That is an old paradigm, and it keeps so many people silent. The truth is, you should always be a student and a teacher, and it's not about mastery. Mastery comes with anything over time. That's a given, and you really never master anything, and every master knows that. And you are a master because you're like the only person who knows, like, you
right?
But my point is, most singing coaches are not the best singers. My point is, it that doesn't matter, and like the validity of you and that's why I'm so glad you're teaching, because people will connect more to you because they know you're all learning together. And what they do know is that, just like a singing teacher or an acting coach, who are usually not the best actors either, you have an eye for it. You do have a knack for, just like singing coaches can pick out pitch. You can freaking see this more
good.
than most people. So it'll be I think it's great you're teaching, and I don't think it matters you haven't nailed it down. I don't know if you'll ever nail it down. I think you'll deepen it, and you'll go down in history for deepening. Same with plasma. I can't prove it. I'm not no way can I be a master, but I do think I'm one of the people that know it and feel it and see it. And I just have a weird special connection. And you have that with Upsight, and I think that's enough. And go us.
Well, no, really. Think about how this is. You're drawn to this. You can't not do this. Literally,
no,
if somebody said don't talk about plasma for a week, your head would explode, right?
No, I can't even do it in this interview. That's why I'm the worst interviewer.
It just couldn't happen. You love this stuff, and there's something in you drawing it out like a magnet pulling the steel, a magnet pulling it out. So something is happening. You definitely have this drive, gift, all of those things.
Same.
And the other thing is the communication, and this is what has really come over. I knew this in the beginning, but since I've made the commitment, and by the way, this is one of those things about what do you call it when you manifesting, right? I never thought about but once I made a decision I was going to do this, I was like, okay, I'm going to start reading people. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go, and I'm going to an event in June, something called a sacred retreat, something sacred retreat. Anyway, you'll find on my website. Actually, that's not for everyone. It's a certain retreat, but I will be there. I think Dana, you and I should set something up maybe, and we can do this sometime in the next couple of months, maybe in July.
Oh, okay, like another thing. Okay.
But my point is, even though I love doing it online, in person, it takes it to another level, because it's just like everything in person. And also I'm being drawn to that. Manifesting, it's saying, okay, do it online because it works, but in person, it's almost like it's 10 times more powerful, or you rub off like a magnet rubs off on the steel. People can go away and they might have this ability. Now that I can't prove at all, but that's what it feels like.
Better in person. Everything's better in person. And you electrifying someone with that. I think it's the same thing, whatever, quantum entanglement. Like anytime I talk about plasma in person, people never see plasma the same. And the same with you, like your gift could rub off on them. Like if we're talking science, that would make sense.
Well, and one of the things that Upsight shows me is it shows me connecting, like looking into people's eyes, and then it goes 1, 2, 4, 8, and all these eyes double, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. So it shows it spreading, right? In a really cool way, bouncing off everyone's eyes. That's a really cool visual. I get that all the time. That is like a really cool visual, a holographic visual that I get all the time.
Well, we'll definitely do an event. We'll do some type of like metaphysical plasma Upsight, whatever. Maybe we'll get 1 or 2 more people, and it'll just be so many people will want to come.
Well, if we even know of an event, we just make sure we go there. If we know an event, we just set up a booth, something like that.
Well, there's Signs of Consciousness, but I don't think anyone wants to fly to Barcelona.
Something a little more local, maybe Atlanta or Miami or wherever. Where are you?
I was going to say I'm near Tampa, near Orlando. So, but anyway, I'm away for July, but I think in August would be a good month to maybe do that, and whoever can come. Yes, and we'll announce that, everyone, when we figure that out.
Yeah. So
first go through. Yeah. I was
No,
gonna say
well,
before
let's do two things. I can give a tip how to do it. Let me give two tips how people
great.
can do this, right?
Okay.
Let's
Yes.
start there before I do your upside reading. So
I want to know the 8 stages too, and just a little bit about each. Because remember, if someone is watching this and doesn't know enough about it, I would like you to explain just a little bit of the 8 stages.
would you want to start with that then? Do you think
Yeah.
that we should start with that? Okay, all right. So let's start with the 8 stages and then I'll give a tip how you can do it. Okay. So for me, the first stage of me, I had a mental breakdown. By the way, I have a book. And it's important for the story. I am plugging it, but it's relevant. It's relevant. It's a memoir called Jesus Goes to Hollywood. It's about my psychotic year, drug addiction year, and how I went through hell and literally lost everything, business, family. And I came out the other side and built everything back up. My family's back together. My kids love me. Then my family hated me, everything but the business. I had a new business. That was gone. So the book is about that. My point is, I needed to collapse and my worldview fell apart. And it was drug induced. Let's be clear. There were drugs involved with that. Okay. Sure. So that happened. And by the way, when I tell this story, people say, well, that happened to me without the drugs. That happened to me because my family fell apart because of drugs, or that happened to me because I had to escape a country. So these things, it's trauma induced.
Totally. It cracks you. Can I say one thing about that?
Yeah, go ahead. Please do.
So there's an amazing book I'm reading. It's like this poet from like the 1900s. And I read this last night and I thought about our conversation and about us, because your trauma and then how I started connecting with plasma over like a heartbreak. And I was like, that's the most boring story ever compared to Tom's. But the point is, trauma cracks you open. In this book, it said something insane, and this will connect to what you're saying. And then I want to say proof of what you're saying that happened in my life. It says, when you're sad, it says, this is very important. Basically, when you're sad, the future enters you in a way to transform you long before you get to that future point. And for some reason, it says it in a way more poetic way, but basically the people that touch deep darkness and sadness, something opens in them, which almost lets this like multidimensional being, which is yourself, in some evolved self or your futuristic self. It cracks that open in a way that people that don't see those depths, like, just haven't touched. And it's just, I mean, if you think about every like visionary or anyone ever who's helped people, they've all experienced and I'm not trying to make people feel left out by that. I'm just explaining, like, I'm validifying your gift and your experience and my own. And then the last thing I'll say is, because yes, maybe this happened because we met in person, but when I started doing a lot of the videos of your Upsight, and this is not a joke, guys, no one paid me to say this, I'm being 100% serious, because some of you guys, I'm sure, can think this is fantastical or magical or just cool. No, this is real. And I don't even know if Tom knows this, but when I was doing the videos a lot last year, I started having Upsight, and it scared me because I'm working through trauma in my life. So, just like you explained, visions can be bad or they can be good. And I was very scared by the vision. So I had to set a boundary up with the Upsight I was developing. But my point was, I was starting to get it listening to all of your stuff.
No, I believe that for sure. I mean, I honestly think it's like it's in the, like, say 100 years, people will communicate with Upsight holograms the same way we're talking. It's not going to be an academic study. Nobody's going to have to prove anything because we're going to be doing it. Right.
And non-autistic and non-verbal autistic kids already do it, and you have to do it.
We haven't even talked since the telepathy tapes.
Get Tom on, because they're doing no, for real. You're like one of the
I agree. No, I agree. And that's one of the when we talked about the TV show, we never talked about that group of people because we didn't know. Right? Yeah. Fascinating. Okay, yeah. So, and I don't think you should diminish the have a broken heart. I think that's the way all this comes in. A broken heart's a big deal. Yeah, and that's trauma.
I'm just saying it's not as like Hollywood story perfect.
Fair. But I think but a broken heart can make this happen, right? I think I do anything that breaks us open and you're receptive to some kind, and it is a kindness, it is a love. Let's be clear. There's no anger. You can't do this. I don't know if somebody else can. I couldn't do this anger. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. You can do it mad, but what's the point? You don't want to.
There's some universal laws with it, which we can get into, and I've experienced it with plasma. But the point is, whether it's heartbreak or mental breakdown, and I've had my share of mental breakdowns in the past too, something cracks cracks open. And when I say heartbreak, by the way, and anyone who's had one, usually that leads you back to a very traumatic time where trust or betrayal was much larger in your life as a child, or as a, a baby in my case. So I think that's, anyway, it touches.
Think about that. Are you saying it was before you were consciously aware? Like, were you a toddler when you had this? Wow. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was adopted. So I was ripped, not my mom's fault. She, did something very brave giving me away because she couldn't take care of me at the time. She was very young. But my point is, when a baby is separated from their biological mother, and they don't realize this, and it's someone's fault, but it's the same kind of rupture from source or from mystery that we have, where even though we are connected and we're always connected and that family's there, as a baby being taken from that. And I specifically almost died at birth. So I was put in a room for 3 days with no contact. I think, anyway, any kind of heartbreak I had would bring me back to that feeling of like deep, deep aloneness where.
Listen, people say that you can't remember being in a crib. That's bulk. I mean, I remember. I do too. It's like, all right, you don't talk about it because people say that's ridiculous, whatever. Anyway, I agree with you. That's where it starts. So, when I started doing this, I thought the thread that people had, it was going to be a drug, something open in people's brains. I was sure that was going to be the thread. It's not. It's not. The thread is trauma. Right? Now, maybe people that studying this knew this, but I didn't. And I thought this is different enough. It wouldn't be. So anyway, mental breakdown.
And everyone's been through trauma, which is very important to state, because if anyone feels left out just because you didn't have this huge trauma, and I think Tom can agree, any human on earth right now has experienced assorted trauma, and you meeting the fear and meeting that trauma, I believe, and I think Tom is intimating this, opens up your intuitional abilities. It's within meeting the darkness that you let these things in. So very important. Anyone can do this if you are willing to meet those depths. And unfortunately, me and Tom were shoved into meeting those depths.
That's true. And when I started talking about this, I literally always said the first couple of years when I was still coming out, I hope people don't have to go through what I went through. That's what I've said to get this. And I hope they don't,
They do. They just might have to go through the crazy shit that you went through if you guys read the book. But they do have to touch that fear.
Okay, fair. So the first thing is breakdown. Then for me, the second thing was escape. I literally had to separate myself from this environment that was toxic, that I'd created, that was hostile, that I was delusional, and just literally get away. I had to get away from this environment. Now, you could do that metaphorically, like getting away from whatever you're working with, if it's a job or whatever, these people you don't want to hang out with anymore. But I had to separate myself from what I believed and knew, right? Yeah. Everything was broken then. Now, what's really interesting, when I was away, that was the second step. Then I was away and I started to let go of all this pain and suffering. I was like, okay, what's the reality about something started coming in, right? Mm-hmm. The light came in and it started to rewire. And that's the other thing. And it started, don't get me wrong, this place was still filled with bad, chaotic, dangerous things, but there was definitely a change and a rewiring, right? And it started to happen.
Future gypsy
self.
Yes,
right. You were like, I was almost like at a pause. Yeah. Or stillness. And when that started to come in. Yes, definitely. So that happened. And then this is kind of AA related. I don't know how this works, but for me, there was a forgiveness stage. Now, this one has nothing to do with this has everything to do with it, but nothing to do with it. I had to forgive myself for doing the drugs, for breaking the family apart, for all this stuff. I had to forgive everyone that hated me, right? There was this huge forgiveness stage and letting go and just saying, okay, let's start over. Now, other people didn't have to do that, but I had to do that. When all those happened, for me it was. So now these aren't all in order. Let me be clear. That's really important because I didn't have the forgiveness stage until the next stage I'm going to tell you about, which is when I saw the Upsight Visions, right? So that's the next one. When the fifth stage is seeing the holograms, right? Seeing this thing, right? So the ability to see and interact with holographic images. The sixth stage was knowing you could communicate. There was an exchange of, seeing the hidden biosphere / organic metaverse. Now,
let's take a pause. The first time you had an Upsight Vision, can you share with people? just
Yeah,
for
I was on drugs. I was on drugs.
Mhm.
But even though I was on drugs, I was on coke. I knew for whatever intuitive reason, I was like, I don't have to be on drugs to do this. It was the last time I used coke. So I saw the back of a dinosaur, blood cells moving through a body, a slot machine, and then the Grim Reaper in that order. Now, since then, I've thought about the symbolism for all those things.
Yes.
Think about this: the past, life, survival, and death.
So
I mean,
crazy.
I didn't think about those right away, but it's like, wow, those are so big things. So those are the first things. I was on a couch, and it was traumatic. But it was also, I say traumatic. It was amazing. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that seeing them was stage 5, interacting with them. And I've divided this into the organic metaverse and the hidden biosphere. Now, the organic metaverse, I call the Akashic record, which has intelligence. It's got topological spaces. It's where abstract knowledge lives. There's not a lot of, this is where intelligence is, like the Library of Alexandria. The hidden biosphere is where literally things are. The living things are non-human intelligence, or let's put it this way, whether they're actually those things or just holographic representation of those things, that's where they are. And they can see you, and you can make eye contact, and that can be scary. You want to jump out if you're scared in that space. Anyway, seeing those places, communicating with them, then realizing stage 7, there's a knowledge downloadable, and the 8th stage is actually, the 8th stage is the communication part, the back and forth of knowing something's going on. And I call the 9th stage, I say it's sunsight or enlightenment.
Oh, yes, I love that one.
Yeah, well, it's like whatever's next, because I'm not there. I'm definitely not. I am not. This is important.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but you intuitively know you will be there because it's future Tom is there.
Perhaps, for sure, but I'm not like how they have these gurus that have to meditate to get to this place. This is not. This is not. You could be like, you do not have to be
perfect.
Not even a little bit. Now I will say this: to have this happen, you don't have to be. To get better at it, it definitely takes discipline and work and being grounded. And I work out and I run and train and I ground myself and with that, I've gotten much better at it. So those are the stages, right? And so most people are in stage, it depends, 3 and 5.
Wait, what do you think sunsight is? I bet you so many people like me are curious.
Enlightenment.
Okay, so you think, so maybe would I be wrong to say sunsight is in the future, if all of us have this ability, we're communicating with it, there's more harmony, there's not as many disagreements because of this.
Yeah, that seems very real. Okay. Yeah. And that, again, back to that's what this is going on. This is what I think is happening collectively. And why? Okay, so think about that. Because our planet is in trauma.
Yeah.
Forever chemicals, climate change, pole shifts, right? All this stuff's going on, political upheaval. The whole planet is in trauma, and our humanity is responding, right? I believe that. I don't have to prove it. I mean, obviously.
I think what happened to you is happening at a collective level where we're all in some type of trauma. And I know this sounds a little bit weird, but like, it's all like ourselves. So no one needs to be scared like they're getting like inhabited, like invasion of the body snatchers. But I think that was made out of fear. But I think there's truth in that, where our what I call our multidimensional selves, our future selves, what someone could call their God body almost, they're landing in us in a time of trauma. It's expanding us to contain all of these things. And we're awakening in ways where we're not ascending, but we're gaining new senses. This is going to lead to what you're saying, where we communicate without words. We can use words, but we also have symbols. And what we recognize there, and this is what will stop wars, is that we understand why people have different beliefs, where they come from, why people believe things. And we start to not see evil. We only see fear and love. And there will be new ways to communicate this way, which won't cause as many disagreements.
Well, the fact that we can do this, right? We'll be able to do it with each other. Now, I do think there's a non-human intelligence here on Earth. I mean, I've seen these things, and they're not necessarily, they're not benevolent. They can be malevolent, and they're influencing us in ways that we don't know. So once we realize that can happen, we can stop that, right? If you don't believe that's possible, then forget it. The conversation's over.
That's what I wanted to ask you, because so I've experienced certain things like that in the past. And my opinion, and I want to know yours, my opinion is that those are all still humanly made, but from fear, even like gray aliens, that somehow our fear has mechanized in the collective unconscious real beings who are almost unconscious in a way, which don't have empathy. And when we're in fear states, we attract these, because I don't want anyone to feel fear like they have no power over it. I at least feel when I resonate at a high level, these things can't touch me. Tell me your opinion.
I feel like that's true. I feel protected in this space for sure. And I think it's because all the things I went through, because I wasn't protected. I was homeless.
Yeah,
I was all these things. And I built up this, I can take a beating in this space, right? Almost like you're training. So they can try to scare you with their demon looks and stuff, holograms, but they go away. It falls apart. If you stare at something that looks like a demon, it will evaporate in smoke.
Okay.
Like if you see it one time and you don't know what to expect, you're the one that jumps out of it.
Sure.
Now, I do think these beings are real. I do. I don't know where they live or whatever. I think maybe they're from the future, but I do think some of them, not all of them. That goes back to what we talked about earlier about some of them may be coming from people. Literally what we just said when we started this conversation about me starting to read holographic projections. That means they're coming from there somewhere. So yeah, and I think it's all those things. And the more we study it, the more we'll be able to sell the difference. That's it. So, and I think the interest, again, I couldn't believe a little over a year ago now, I had the first person reach out to me, said, I can do this too. Or to some level. I've got 1,600 emails now. 1,600. Now they all can't say it, they all don't have it to the same degree, but they're like, oh, I can do this to some degree. And at least, 1,000 of them say they can do it. Again, to some degree. That's the best way to say it, some degree or another. And again, to your point, Dana, maybe in a year they'll do it better, right? Maybe they'll learn to hit that pitch if it's a song that they're trying to get, or hit a note that they couldn't get before if they practice.
Or they'll discover that they might be an okay singer and they have this other magical ability. That's what I feel.
Yeah, agreed. And, and if you're told, I've had young people say, oh, I can do this. My mom said, don't tell anyone because they think I'm crazy. Right? That makes you're laughing. You know what? Don't tell your mom. Nobody's going to get hurt. And I tell people that they see scary things to jump out of it. Right? I've seen the most horrible things. And I don't know why I would have to see horrible things, but you just jump out of it. It's like, I don't need to see that now. Right? Yes. I don't know why I see it, just as I've seen enlightened stuff and good stuff and beautiful things. Yeah.
And I do want to share with that, because as much as I do like to focus on the positive, but we can't act like there's no fear or darkness. Like, this is a space created by us in our consciousness and other consciousnesses. And obviously there are dark things. And just as you see bad people in real life, I'm sure this reflects in this, what I would call 4-dimensional space or dark matter, or this biosphere space. Like, we'll see good and bad, but just like real life, if you are resonating, not in fear, like Tom is saying, and almost laughing at these things, or being more open when you view it, it will fall apart. Just like, I think that's true. I think it's an energetic space, and I think you can 1,000,000% protect yourself. But sometimes, just like intrusive thoughts, you're going to see weird shit.
Well, and everyone says to me that these, you're messing with demons. I'm like, if these are demons, hell's not sending their best, They're not demons. They may be whatever. This is coming from someone's mind, but it's not a demon. It looks like it because I want you to think it, almost like a moth has a face of a snake on the back of it, so it won't get eaten. It's the same idea, at least what I'm experiencing.
No, I agree. I think in a weird way, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, it seems like they're almost protecting themselves.
Sure. And they don't want you. Exactly. That's a really good way to put it. They don't want us there for whatever reason doing this. Yeah. All right. Let me give some tips on how to do this. I'm going to give 2 today. And the last time I only given 1. I want to give another one too. And I'm going to tell a story about it because this one is, you can decide whether it's easier or harder. Okay. So if you want to see if you can do this, right? It's the hypnagogic state. I don't know if you know the word. It's the state you're in right before you go to sleep, the waking dream state, right? If you can make yourself get in that state by don't lay down in bed, sit on a couch, feet planted, and sit there and literally you can think of an image. You can sit there and think of an island, or say, okay, I want to think of an island. Mm-hmm. So even though you're thinking of an island, you need to focus on something. You may, if you're doing it, so two things might happen. Number one, you actually may manifest this island. It may literally be in front of you in a hologram, right? Because you're thinking about it and that's what you're wanting. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or two, you may be thinking about it, but some other image comes in because you're getting into this frequency, but you can't create it, but you can see where something else has come from. Does that make sense?
Yes, because I'm doing it now. And so because I'm in a more calm space, I'm able to see like this pink island I've made. But sometimes when I'm in a more fuzzy space or anxious space, I'll have literally like a murderer come in the scene.
Yeah, right. So well, if that happens, then you say, okay, can you turn this murder into a kitten? That was the next step. Try to influence it. So if you can do those things, first, if you can manifest it in the hypnagogic state, that's one. But it takes a minute all this takes 8 seconds or less. But if you can do this, that means if you can do it, you can do it better if you practice it. Number one, see it. And number two, change it. If you can do both those things, you have it to some degree. Yeah. Now, there's another thing, the hypnopompic state, where you come out of a dream state. Okay. You wake up. So now this one is wild. And this one, for me, I don't know how to say this, because I'm asleep. I can do lucid dreaming sometimes, but let's say you set the alarm because you want to wake up and see if you can do it. If you wake up in hypnagogic, I can literally have my eyes open, laying in bed, and I can still see my dream. Literally.
You have upside because
I can see the dream.
Okay, because I'm in between the dream, but not in vision like you. Like it's telling me things. Like I get downloads.
Well, it's the same thing though. It's the same space, but I'm seeing it. So you're awake, you're still dreaming, and you're like, okay, I know I'm awake, right? And your eyes are wide open. So my dream is hovering. It's hovering over my wife's head, and I'm like. So the other day, I'm going to tell this story because it's a perfect summation of interacting with this. I wake up. This is a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I wake up and I open my eyes and there's these two little kids like Jack and Jill, like 6, 7, 8 years old. And they were throwing pebbles at me, holographic kids. And I'm like, and I'm wide awake. I'm like looking over. I'm like, why are you doing that? And I said, and I looked at the girl and I thought, I can turn your brother into an octopus, right? And I started making his legs and she looks over at him and she's freaking and he's freaking out. And I said, I can lift you up and throw you down the road. So I lift her up and then but I say, I'm not going to do that if you stop throwing pebbles at me. So you know what? He starts changing back. She comes down to earth and I say, now, I don't know what you want, but just run along. They literally turned around these holographic images and ran up the hill. And that was that. I got up and I went to the bathroom. Right? That is the kind of control you can have in between the space, right? Now, that was whatever. I don't know where that originated, right? I don't know where those kids or whatever they were originated. But once I was awake, I could interact with them because of the Upsight Vision ability. Those are two places to start with to see if you have it. Now, a lot of people aren't going to want to set their alarm to, set it up. But if you really want to see if you have it, I would suggest that. The first one is easier. Yeah. Actually, the first one is an easier place to start. But the second one is more graphic and in-depth because you're already in that space when you wake up.
So, guys, just if anyone missed that, hypnopompic when you wake up, or hypnagogic, I think, before you go to sleep.
Hypnagogic is going to bed. Hypnopompic is when you wake up.
Okay, if you're in that liminal space, you can basically try to see yourself, a litmus test, I think it's called, if you have upsight. And people like I just said, like me, who do have the ability to half dream, or maybe you get downloads, or like you hear your dream speaking to you as you wake up, you might be more apt to be able to try this without an alarm. I, for instance, right now, at least, because I haven't practiced or talked to Tom about it in a while, I don't have Upsight Vision at all, but I do have the knowing, which is cool. That's why you're validating for me, though. It's a real thing.
Well, and even if you just wake, don't even have to set your alarm. If you just wake up and you're like, wow, if you have the foresight to say, wow, I just woke up from a dream and your eyes are open, you still may see the dream, you still may see the dream coming in. So that's wild, so cool, man. It's fun. It's fun.
Okay, so do you want to try a little experiment on me, and then we can go into anything new you're working on or starting, or? Yeah,
let's do. Now, here's what's cool about us, Dana. Since I already have this quantum entanglement with you, because we've spent time in person at the consciousness conference, so I'm just going to sit here and I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to look over to the right because I've already done the down. I know we are entangled because we've done this. I'm only going to do it for a minute. I'm not going to do it for a long time, but let's just see what I see. And then you can report back in a week or so if anything I bring up resonated with you, or was precognitive or symbolic or anything, whatever happens. But hold on, give me a second. And I'm going to
put it back to you for fun. I'll do my knowing, like, because I don't see. I'm gonna do the same thing to you, and you can let me know, even though it has nothing to do with Upsight.
Yeah, no, let's do that. I love it. That's great. That's exchange, and I think that's important. Now, I'm going to do this for a minute, and I'm just going to literally describe what I see without any editorial. I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to stop after a minute. Okay.
Okay.
So, but just give me a minute. I'm going to shut my eyes too, because, well,
Sure.
I'm going to look. I call it Upsight because I look over to the right, but that is not. It's so much easier if it's a flat wall or dark. This is a hallway with a bunch of pictures on it with depth, but I'm going to make it work. All right. So just give me a second. So I see like a super girl. I see a woman in a cape literally flying through the sky next to the dog, whatever that dog, Crypto. They're literally flying through the sky. And I see a girl. I think it's you, literally you, and you're flying. All right, let me keep going. Now she's coming down. She's literally talking to her dog flying. See, this is dreamlike. Literally her head is turned to talk to the dog, and they're exchanging something. I don't know. All right, hold on.
Yep.
Okay. So now sometime this girl is landing and the dog's landing. She's adjusting her shoes. Now this is so specific, and she's tying her shoes now. While she's sitting there, she pulled her cape behind her. She's sitting on the stump of a log. She's tying both shoes. The dog is coming over, pulling her shoes down. The dog is okay. See, this is adorable. The dog is untying her shoes as she's tying them. So there you go. That's it. I don't want to keep doing it. It's long enough. But that is the kind of thing. And then if I was doing this, so I'm going to start doing this for people now. From time to time, I would do it at length, and then I would do an area they wanted to focus on: finance, money, whatever. The kind of thing that whatever somebody wants to
start making connections,
unconscious connect, right? Some answers, something that's built up in their life they want something to look at, or if corporations want to help, the creative team wants it, because that's my background.
Yes. So. No, I could see. Oh my God. And just to validate you, at least, I just went to a movie the other day. Like literally just the other day. It was called Death of a Unicorn, and or I think it was the Minecraft movie, whichever one I just went to. And for the first time I saw a commercial, and it was the Marvels or whoever, Marvel DC of Superman. And it was all about Crypto pulling on him. And I remember even having the thought, they should have a Supergirl movie. Like, enough's enough with the Superman. Like, what about her and a dog? And then before I came in this room, I was talking to my mom about how I treat my dog and how my dog's like my daughter, and how we treat each other. So in a way, like, it does, in a weird way, it connects. It's not like so off base. And I think I was a gate kid too. I think what it symbolizes is just like, it's all about relationships that I'm going through with my inner self, and how I treat my dog compared to like me and my mom talking about how I was treated, and like working through stuff.
So, just pay for whatever it's worth. Just think about this as you're moving forward. Like I said, what's really the coolest thing to me is you're going to forget about this conversation in 4 days. You're either going to have this, you might have this aha moment, like, oh, I haven't thought about that in a long time, or what we talked about 4 days ago, and then all of a sudden you're going to see a billboard with a Superman poster or something like that.
Or something with my dog, tying my shoes.
Or the dog, right? The dogs, whatever. There's so many things. Again, to try to narrow it down to say exactly what it means, you kind of lose the ability to let it tell you what it means, right? To try to shoehorn it into a meaning. Now that's why people go, the collective conscious, you have to think about it over time, because it changes and stuff like that. So that's what I saw.
I do notice too, patience is a big thing. The whole patience is a virtue. Like, once again, I think we're moving away from quick fixes, which is why algorithms are starting not to work. And it's more about giving space and time to these things. And we should be moving in the direction of, like, when we get readings, journaling, giving things space and time for synchronicities, connecting to the moment, learning how to make time elastic. So everything you're saying is correlating with that.
So, and the other thing, and we can kind of finish on this too, because I
Yeah.
said about the communication, right? Is
Yes,
I think that the other thing is something we really didn't touch. I'd say I have to shift my attention, but you do have to pay attention when you're doing this. So this means you're taking it off of one screen, your phone, your computer, whatever, iPhone, and you're putting it on, your mind screen, or this other screen that's out there in front of you. And in a weird way, I think this is our brain's response. We didn't never talk about why this is happening, the trauma and stuff, but I think it's responding like this because all these digital influences, right? When the first year I did this, when I was completely disconnected from the whole world, this is back when I had the headphones with they still had the wires and stuff like that. They didn't have the AirPods. I would look at my phone because I didn't want to be with anyone else. I would look at my phone for hours and hours and hours. And I wonder if that had something to do with focusing. But now I didn't need the phone. And all these kids and people are being raised on phones and looking at screens and stuff. I wonder if this is the brain's response to that from an evolutionary mutation perspective. I know that's a stretch, but whatever. Who knows?
I mean, we don't know those effects. I'm curious. All I know is I've been feeling lately like I don't want to be on technology as much, and I want to be more in this world of what you're doing, like Upsight Vision, feeling the plasma, feeling reality, experiencing presence. Like, do you feel that? I'm feeling such a need of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when like I said, Dana, when I made a commitment to start doing these readings, something shifted. It was like I was supposed to, and I'm like, why did I wasn't ready. You said this earlier too about timing. It was not the time. I was not ready to do that. I was not ready to sit there and focus all my attention. I was definitely about the research, but not about doing the readings with people and going to places and doing that. So we'll see what happens. So.
Yeah, it takes a turn. I'm trying to think if I have another question or two before we close to finish, because I had it.
Does anybody have a question in the chat? Does
I was going to say we've sustained like a pretty good audience this entire time that I'm looking at. Thank you guys for listening. Okay, if anyone wants to ask Tom a question, now's your time. I know I get so many emails from people that they want me to connect you with them, and I'm like, I don't.
Well, I don't respond really. Sometimes I do, right? But they're the same things. The questions are usually answered in the 8 stages of Upsight Vision. How's that? That's the best way to say it. They have a question.
Also, it's important to express, I think, to people, boundaries, because I used to get very upset when influencers wouldn't answer me. And I didn't understand why, because I was just trying to connect. And I'm not calling us influencers. I'm just explaining, like, energetically, it's draining to read emails all day. And your heart so badly wants to tell everyone and help everyone and connect with everyone. But at a point, it gets exhausting energetically. And you realize that also helps people depend more on themselves, where we make content like this. And then people can go back and really, this is how people start to depend on themselves more.
That's good. That's good, Dana. Thanks for saying that. And if you do get the PDF, if you do get it, it's free. You'll be on a mailing list. So when I do these classes and stuff, you'll be included. So you can keep up. And there might be a community I'm setting up, but that's still under development.
And that link, guys, his website link where everything is in the bio. It's in the description of this live. Okay. Someone said, how is this different than being a quote unquote seer?
Well, I think a seer typically is someone is predicting events. That's how I'm defining the word seeing. And they're seeing stuff with their third eye, like they're predicting maybe a volcano eruption or a wreck, or you know what I mean, some bad casualty event or a plane crash. This is literally seeing holographic images, and they may not be that expansive. And in fact, the precog element, it's so hard to control. I mean, I've never even done it. No, that's not true. I've definitely seen a bridge collapse with Upsight, and then I went online and there's a bridge collapse. But I've also seen a bridge collapse. It's funny, both these. For days I looked for it. I couldn't find it. So it's like
same with volcanoes for me, by the way. Volcanoes and earthquakes, I'll feel it, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah, I don't know. So the seer is somebody is that is what they're doing. That is what their job is. This is more about seeing holographic images, even at the smaller personal level, as opposed to the grand, universal level. It's both micro and macro. I think it's more important on the micro level, the individual level, and connecting us all on the micro level. That's what it feels like to me.
And I would go stretch further to say like it's like a holographic seer where you're reading like archetypes and symbols, and seers feel more broad to me.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely think that's the case. Again, I would not call myself a seer. But that said, I called it Upsight Vision. It's redundant. People are like, why'd you use that? Because the upside is the seeing, and it is vision on top of vision, but it's also vision the future and vision seeing things. So
Yeah,
whatever.
upside.
So I like
Okay,
yeah.
Russell Gregory said, "Have you looked at the new science experiment, topological
No, I'll check it
superconductors?"
out. Yeah, I'll
Interesting. Yeah,
definitely check it out.
Tom
From
does talk about basically.
Topological spaces, yeah, for sure. In fact, maybe I have seen it, but I'll definitely look into it again because that is people say, is this your superpower? No, my superpower is manifesting topological images and folding them. Any manifold or space, I can look at it and deconstruct it. That's the magic. And I've built this. People use the word Rulliad, this coordinate system that's on steroids. It's extraordinary, multidimensional. It's just sitting there right here. I
I
can
will
use it.
tell people because I do have investors that watch these that about did you email me from time to time, sometimes offering support. You guys, if any investors are watching or people who are into tech or into experimenting with this stuff, Tom does have, and I won't get too much into it because I don't want to expose any secrets, but Tom has some kind of proprietary knowledge with the topology of what I would call the fourth dimension in a way that I haven't heard anyone else have it, and this could help with technology. It could there's one person specifically I'm thinking of who's actually, I won't say his name, but he's building machines that see the topology of this dimension. But I know that you guys would have synergy. Maybe I'll actually talk to you later and see if you want to connect with him.
Sure.
But anyway, I think Tom, whether someone puts investment in or whether someone wants to study with him, there's a lot to be cracked open there that might, if you want to build on that with what I'm saying, Tom, feel free. Like how
No,
that.
that's good. It's this thing. I've got it. I need the mechanical engineer and the coder to build it. And when that time is right, those pieces will come together. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's not in a rush, guys. He's all about,
exactly.
resonating versus need.
Yeah.
But is there an implication you can share with the viewers about, because I know it's a complicated topic, but basically what can you at least say to the viewers right now about the topology and also what the implications are for humanity or future tech?
So there is this topological space manifold that I see that maps to, I don't know if it maps to our universe, but it maps to the dark matter universe. Again, what's that? What is that? Something we don't even know what it is. Whatever this is, here's what I'll say. It's very specific and real, structured, and it is as real as when you think about the roots of a tree, right?
Yeah.
Or the branches of a tree. It's like when you think about the Nautilus and those kind of shapes. It is real. I've never seen anything like it. All I need to do is build it. And I do think I say it's invisible. It was invisible. I could see it. I think more people are seeing it. And all this AI and AGI that we're building now is pulling from the same sources. All the stuff we've uploaded to the computers, these intelligence things, what this pulls from and what we've talked about that's 5% of it. That's nothing. We think humanity has, forget it. We're talking Akashic Record. We're talking Noosphere. This is so different than that. Whoever, from a business perspective, can build this and download this and use it proprietary and use it to it would be a huge differentiator for AI. It would be like the one business if it was Microsoft or a new business or whatever. Everyone else has that same, pulling from the same pool. This is the one different thing. Again,
and I agree. Yeah. And I think it has to do, I will just say, I think it has to do with plasma. And I don't think it's a coincidence that me, you, and Jason all met at the same place. I think we see where he sees it in light and information. He knows the math behind what you're talking about, by the way, and in a different way, though. Like, I think we all put puzzle pieces together of this new frontier of this space. Because I don't see it in the same way you do. I think I know what it's made of. And I would like to ask you, and I know you have to go probably soon. Can you go till 7:15?
Sure.
Okay. Because some people have a few more questions. I would like to ask, I can't see it in the way you can, and I can't structure it in the way you can, but I do think, me personally, it's made of, plasma and consciousness. It's very similar to space-time, or where like consciousness structures it and plasma is like the clay it's structuring. I see it that it can shapeshift and is fluid. are you saying that there might be an architecture that's not fluid at the foundation of it, or do you see it as fluid, but there's some kind of understructure?
Okay, that's a great question. So,
Yeah.
so even though it has a structure,
Mhm.
it changes through
Oh,
time.
great, because I see that too.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it changes through
that,
time. So
yeah.
yeah, it has a structure, but just like a river has a structure, it's going,
Okay,
it
great.
changes when part. This is just like that.
Oh, I'm
So
so
it is
glad you
both
said
those things. Yeah, for sure. It
because I
changes
see
through
it
time.
because I see it as the collective unconscious in the way to where like a river erodes rocks. I see it as a shore, a I do see it does seem to have time where a higher space that you might also talk about, like more intelligent space, doesn't seem to have time. I see this space as a liminal space that has time in a more stretched way, but still erodes like a river where our collective unconscious is architecting it in a way where it changes over vast amounts of time because as we evolve, it evolves. And then within that, it can have individual changes that you or I can make, which is where we're seeing these beings and shaping what you're seeing. And then I view the bigger space as like collectively almost constructed by us, which won't change every 2 seconds because it takes hundreds of years for those change. Anyway, I think
Yeah,
I'm
that's interesting because I don't see it from that perspective. I'm understanding everything you're saying,
yeah, tell
right?
me your
But I
perspective.
don't see it from that perspective. I see it
Yeah,
just
tell me.
from a map, like just call it a framework, a
Yeah,
structure, right?
yeah,
So when it's at this level or
yeah,
size, it's different than it's 10,000 miles wide. It's not it's scale invariant. It's scale variant, excuse me. It
yeah,
changes through time, right?
yeah.
And it changes from different angles, but it's consistent and can be built.
That's
So
cool.
it's
Wow.
extraordinary. I mean, it is
Yeah,
extraordinary.
that's so exciting. Oh, I can't wait to learn more. I feel like we kind of know what each other's saying, but we also kind of don't. But that's what's so exciting because
Yeah, for sure. Agreed. Agreed.
all I know is that I know in my heart it's valid what you're saying, and that's why I talk to you and bring you on this. Okay, and that's why you talk to me because we're not schmucks. I mean, we are schmucks, right? we
I
are.
can be a shock,
We
maybe.
are. We're schmucks that are not making it up. We
Yeah,
have
no. What's the point? There's
spirit.
no payoff. I don't understand the payoff of that.
I
Whatever.
was
I
gonna say
know.
if they're like me and you, especially because we are like we have intelligence where we could be what we want to be in our lives. Like I could have went to school to be a doctor. I could have just been an actor. I'm obsessed with plasma because I know there's freaking something to it in the same way you are. It's like we don't get anything out of this. If anything, we feel sometimes ostracized. So it's like we
Yeah,
have no
sure.
reason to make this shit up.
And
I would
even the thought leaders in the academics, they literally don't know what they're talking. I mean, they know
no,
what they're talking about from their perspective. They're not even accepting this. And it's just,
no. They
fine,
will.
they're smart, but they're
Oh, they
also closed-minded.
it's okay though, Tom, because like I see it. I see into the future and I see people coming to us in the way where like once we were laughed at and then we were kind of accepted and then before you know it, people are coming to you. So
Yeah.
just you wait. We'll have our time, just like any bullied child. Okay, last two questions so people feel heard and seen here. Have you, Tom, Sunny, has Tom seen a blue plasma like being in the metaverse?
So I don't know if it's plasma. I tell the story, this translucent um, being that was next to I tell this story. These things were not the metaverse. I think this was in my room, by the way, right? When I was, do we have time? Let me tell you, we'll finish on this story. Okay, Danny. So when I was completely isolated from my family in 2012, I spent a lot of time on St. John's Island, a whole month, completely disconnected. I think, but I was high, fucked up a lot, wasted a lot. But I think that I needed to get away so these beings could do some kind of mind experiments. I don't know. I felt like I was being influenced every day by this non-human intelligence. But again, I was high, so they were maybe making me do stuff. I don't know. It felt like I was experimented on.
Yeah.
Boom, jump ahead a couple of years later. I'm back home. I'm clean, sober a couple of years. I wake up from bed, and to the right of me are these three translucent beings, right, with a blue cast. There was one of them and they were bird-like things, like Thoth, the Egyptian god Thoth. They had these big robes on. They were hovering above the ground. We're not touching the ground. And I looked at them, and I wasn't scared at all. I was like, "Oh, you again." That my mind was like, it knew that they were there. Now, the wild part about this is that and the reason I woke up, I had to go to the bathroom. As I woke up, these beings, the one that was right next to the bed, backed up so I wouldn't bump into it. Right. And the ones behind it were far enough they didn't have to. So it backed up. I went to the bathroom, went back to bed, and they were still there. And I just turned my back on them. And I thought, you got to do it. They're going to do what they want to do. So those beings, those intelligent beings, I don't know if they're from the hidden biosphere or the organic metaverse, or they live here and they're different than that, because they were different. They were different. A hologram, they were not holograms. They were translucent, clear beings. Those things, I think, are the intelligence that somehow guide, communicate, prod, or something with me. And maybe that's a bridge too far for some people, but I see them every once in a while. And you know, I mean, if you look at the Egyptian Thoth, you know, and their knowledge, that's what I mean. I've researched it.
I was going to say that you're it seems to me like you're connecting to the same thing. It's like you're seeing the same things. It's not like those were just drawn for nothing.
Yeah, I agree. The wildest part was the backing up so I wouldn't touch it. The thought of that, the holograms, I never think about that. But this being, you know, what would have happened? I don't even know.
I mean, it seems like it materialized in your room.
Right. Well, and floating and translucent. Right. I could see the bookcase through them, but they were also, it was wild.
Sorry, I'm the worst at cutting people off. That sounds like the book, what is it called? Autobiography of a Yogi, where his master materialized in front of him. I mean, I think these things really happen sometimes.
Yeah.
I know they do. I want that to happen.
Well, it's funny. I know they happen, but it's whether it's a hologram or is it in the room with me, are completely different things, right? A hologram I know is just like this, whatever it is, whatever kind of dark matter or plasma. If something's in the room with you, it changes the dynamic. But
that's crazy. Okay, well, I think we'll end off with that one. I love that one. I think, hold on, let me just see. I took a note. Oh, okay. I was taking my own note. You sometimes give me downloads and I take notes. I was like, oh, I shouldn't. I'm not going to say the one. Okay. And no one has any other questions?
Here, I'll say one thing. Let's finish this. I promise you, somebody that's watching or listening to this will have a synchronistic event in the next week, like next level. And they'll think, hold on a minute. And they'll think back to this program. I'm making that prediction.
I'm sure you're right. And I hope a lot of people see this. I think this interview will help a lot of people be seen. It will help people who've struggled with mental health know that they're not just cast away and meant to be thrown out, and that they can still have spiritual gifts and not be crazy. Because most people, including me, have deep, deep fears of spirituality equaling crazy, because there is sometimes a fine line when you're not grounded. But the importance of learning how to work with visions and archetypes in a way where you're not diagnosed schizophrenic because you're not schizophrenic, that's huge. And I think there's so many people out there who have the fears of craziness and won't speak about their gifts. And I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, but you know, you can easily go to a therapist and figure out there's a huge difference between the ungrounded feeling of schizophrenia and these visions you're seeing, but it can feel similar if you don't know the differences. So that's why it's important for Tom to talk about this.
Yeah. And the reason I think I'm good at this is because I had that mental health crisis, right? I had to filter. I went through delusions. I thought every thought that came in my head was true. And that filter got so stronger. I stopped doing drugs, and it's been so long now. But let's be clear. I was unwell. I checked myself into a psych ward. I was homeless. I was unwell. Long time ago. That's gone. That is completely gone.
And it's happened. Oh, everyone likes you. They're saying you're cool. And I mean, I went to a psych ward when I was 15 on cocaine. I had a complete break of reality. I thought aliens landed in my room, and who knows, maybe they did. And I was
right.
They were like clicker clackering at me. But anyway, it was so great having you on. I'm sure I'll have you on again soon. You guys, you can find out more about Tom at his website. It's in the link in bio, but just to say it, it's tommatte.com.
Yeah, tom-matte.com. You can get the PDF. Yep. Or you can go to my YouTube channel, go to Upsight Vision. You can watch a pretty long 24-minute video I made about this whole thing.
And that's tagged below too, everyone, is YouTube and his website. And you can get the free PDF to see if you might have Upsight Vision or might be in one of the stages. You can also go on Tom's website to see about his event where he'll be in person in July or June.
June. It's not up yet, but in the next week it'll be up, the link and everything.
And I'm sure, which Tom has said, in the fall, he might even have sessions if you want a session where he can tell you what he sees. Anything else you want to? And his book is on Amazon. That's also on his website.
It's not about teaching. It's a memoir about psychotic. It's not. It's some people think it's about teaching. It's not. It's just the memoir of the hell the family went through and how we got back together.
I think
All
that's
right.
so interesting.
No, guys.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a
Yeah,
great
thanks,
night.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.